Colonel Dinny and Maroof is with us right now here on the broadcast. Good morning to both of you. Maroof, for the betterment of our viewers, for a basic understanding of the terrain, how different it is from Ladakh, where the Galwan clashes happened, and this time around here as well, how can there be a sudden provocation of a build-up of more than 300 to 350 Chinese soldiers there, giving a direct challenge to the Indian soldiers? Maroof? I think we'll just reconnect that line. Colonel Dinny, if you can take that question, sir. Can you help us understand the terrain there, sir? Colonel Dinny and Maroof continue to be with us. Colonel Dinny, sir, apologies, I had to interrupt you, sir. Please continue speaking as you were helping us understand the difficult terrain. How different is it from Ladakh, and this is in Arunachal, sir?
See, first, the basic difference is in Ladakh, it's a high altitude cold desert, and here in Arunachal, although the altitudes are similar and at places even higher, but you still have a lot of vegetation. And so that is the primary difference. But otherwise, the level of difficulty and the other issues usually associated with a high altitude is equally applicable in Tawang and even the rest of Arunachal. And at some places, it's more difficult because of the lack of basic infrastructure like roads, which are not available, and therefore the troops to reach that place and for their sustenance becomes a very difficult issue. So that is the basic thing, that what we all along the line of actual control, the basic issues till date, what the Indian Army and the Indian Army troops and the ITBP troops at places face is that this lack of infrastructure, which was holding us back for a very long time. I believe that even this particular incident which happened, which is the latest of the series of incidents which have been happening for the past few years, is primarily because India has been very actively improving its infrastructure all along the border. That, somewhere down the line, China has been rattled by that, because the number of roads which are coming in, the number of helipads, airports, the mobile infrastructure, all these things is something which is not the usual thing which is happening in the line of actual control. So that is why the infrastructure is there. So you find troops being there. The troops being there, naturally they will challenge the Chinese who are going to come there, staking their claim in this particular area of differing perceptions. So that is why primarily this conflict will happen. And that is, and I'm very sure that wherever the Chinese are going to change the status quo, it will be, given a befitting reply, as was seen even this time by the Indian Army troops deployed there. No matter how difficult the conditions are, those does not matter as far as the operational requirement is concerned.
Absolutely, because Maroof, here there is no questions on the preparedness of the Indian Army and our forces here. Of course, that is why we have been giving a befitting reply to the Chinese PLA soldiers. But what exactly is the reason behind this provocation is something that is the intense build-up of the Chinese soldiers. What is being said that they were around 300 to 350, increased drone activity as well. What explains this provocation?
A few things perspective. The first thing is, I think there is a big difference between what is being reported to unofficial channels and what is going to come out in the Raksha Mantri's statement. The Raksha Mantri, I'm clear that there was no major confrontation, and in fact I have heard now from first-hand sources that the Chinese told came that but finally was amicably it's pulled off and the Chinese went their own way. So I don't know how true this is about a major standoff with the Chinese like Galwan. We have to wait for the Raksha Mantri's statement, and I will go by that. Secondly, please understand that the terrain may be varying. There's more greenery here, there's less green, but on the level of difficulty both in Ladakh and Arunachal is similar. It's mountain warfare, very tough territory. Thirdly, we must understand that our ability to thwart Chinese
Maroof, apologies, we are unable to hear you clearly. We just reconnect that line with you. Your audio is coming in, so we just need to reconnect that line with you. But Colonel Dinny, as you've been mentioning, because ever since 2020, the Galwan clash that was reported, we're looking at heightened activity also on part of the Indian side. The BRO was also given the responsibility to have an increased road connectivity and infrastructure that actually connects eastern Bhutan with western Tawang as well, sir.
Absolutely. That's what I was mentioning in my initial comments, that India is taking, giant leaps as far as infrastructure development goes all along the line of actual control. That is the first part. And the second part is our operational balance, which includes our logistic balance as well. And so that also has been, we are taking systematic steps towards, increasing our operational balance in all across the line of actual control. So things are changed drastically as far as India's response mechanism is concerned. And therefore, like what Maroof sir also was mentioning, even I believe that probably this incident may not be of the scale or the intensity at what it happened in Galwan. I believe that things will cool down, and as we speak, the troops are not in physical contact. That's a good sign, and I'm sure the local commanders there must have handled it in a manner that this incident is not repeated, at least at that particular site. But having said that, but I'm very sure that in the coming days too, because of this differing perceptions along the line of actual control, till the time we have clear demarcated boundary, this clashes will occur because China will try to assert itself and Indian troops will give them a befitting reply, and this clashes will continue. But at this moment, I think this particular incident may not be of that scale as was.
No, undoubtedly, sir. But Colonel Dinny, just a point to add here, especially when it comes to the talks that have been happening, sir, has it yielded much of a result ever since the 2020 clash happened, sir? The talks have happened at the Major General level, at the Colonel level, at Brigadier level. We are told that the flag meeting after this skirmish also happened to de-escalate, sir. Military level talks that have been happening, diplomatic level talks that see happening, but still we see such kind of reports coming in of clashes being reported, sir.
See, ma'am, I believe that yes, there are about 16 rounds of military talks which has happened. So first and foremost, the fact that we are talking is a good sign. The fact that we are not talking with Pakistan shows that we have what the kind of relations between India and Pakistan, and yet Pakistan has been trying to infiltration. They are trying to carry out infiltration or something. But with China, the fact that after Galwan 2020 nothing major has happened till now, which is a good sign, and the fact that when the military commanders, the local military commanders at various levels speak to each other, the chances of physical contact or physical conflicts can be minimized. I think it's a good thing that people, the military commanders are talking, and I also believe that the fact that the diplomatic element in those talks are also included or incorporated.
Of course, what has been said that the flag meeting also happened right after this clash that was reported there, sir. We are awaiting for the official government statement on this in the parliament. Please do stay on with us, Colonel Dinny. Let me go back to our reporters on this. Sabyasachi, we heard it from the opposition as the kind of chaos that was witnessed in the Lok Sabha. They were demanding an answer from the government. At 12 noon, we are told that the Raksha Mantri will be speaking in Lok Sabha, and the timing of his speaking, his address in the Rajya Sabha has also been preponed now to 12:30 p.m. Sabyasachi.
Well, absolutely. See, the central government has set the oppositions to maintain peace because Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is going to address the opposition as well as the rest of the country regarding the entire situation. And the time has been changed. He was supposed to speak at Rajya Sabha at around 2 p.m., but it has been shifted at around 12 p.m. and Lok Sabha has been adjourned till 12 p.m. So clearly, all eyes will be on the statement which will be given by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, because we had seen the kind of ruckus that broke out inside the Lok Sabha, because all the opposition parties have given a motion and letters to the parliament saying that the session should be suspended and discussion should take place regarding the entire scenario. And also it is expected that when Rajnath Singh is going to speak and tell the entire country about the incident, the opposition is going to increase their attack, and time and again we have seen that they have questioned the leadership of the central government and why the central government has not cleared the issue surrounding the India-China border, and they have also went to the extent questioning that why, on the other hand, if you are seeing that the Chinese army and their troops are increasing near the line of actual control, then why the Indian army's troops are not being increased. So these are the kind of allegations which has come forth from the opposition parties, but the central government is very clear on its put forth that they are going to give reply to the opposition as well as the rest of the country. But so far, if you see that the army has completely given a befitting reply to the Chinese counterpart, because they have completely taken the Chinese counterpart by surprise, because the Chinese army did not think that the Indian army will be this much well prepared to tackle off the entire approach that the Chinese army made.
Absolutely. We are awaiting for the official statement on part of the government of India, and that will be done by Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh on the floor of the House. But before that, Nyamika, there were a series of meetings that were also chaired by the Raksha Mantri. And how long do we expect when it comes to the Prime Minister's meeting that is also set to begin just before Rajnath Singh makes his official address in the Parliament?
Well, that's absolutely right, as the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh had called an emergency meeting today morning at his residence, in which the NSA, CDS and even the Army Chief was being presented there to brief the Defence Minister about the ground situation, that what has actually happened there along the LAC when the troops clashed between the Indian Army and the PLA, and for that matter how the central government is also making a strategy to tackle this entire situation, because these are the repeated transgressions that are being made by the PLA along the LAC, and for that matter the opposition parties are also raising a demand to hold a discussion in the Parliament, as many of the opposition MPs have passed a motion in the Parliament, both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, demanding a discussion over this entire matter. And for that today the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is also going to make a statement at 12 PM in Lok Sabha, and followed by that another statement at 12:30 in Rajya Sabha, and they are also waiting for that only. And even the Lok Sabha has also been adjourned till 12 PM because the opposition parties were raising a demand to hold a discussion on this entire matter, and for that they had created a ruckus. And we are also expecting that when the Defence Minister will make his statement in the Parliament, then also the opposition parties are going to raise a demand that they want a discussion, a proper discussion on this entire matter, because they want a proper reply that how the central government is going to make a strategy to tackle this entire issue. Because earlier also we have seen that the opposition parties, and specifically Congress party, was demanding that Prime Minister Narendra Modi should come out and should make a statement on this entire matter, because these are the repeated transgressions that are being made by the PLA, and that is also affecting our own Indian Army. And because in the recent incident also there are minor injuries that has been occurred to all these Indian Army officials who were being placed there because of these clashes that had erupted between the Indian Army and the PLA.
Absolutely. So what do we know as of now, that the both houses of Parliament stand adjourned? It's at 12 noon that the proceedings will begin in the Lok Sabha, and Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh will be making his official statement at 12:30 PM. He will be making a statement on the floor of the House in the Rajya Sabha amid the din that was witnessed on part of the opposition party and the leaders there who were questioning the government on those latest clashes that have been reported between India and China, this time in the Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh. But Colonel Dinny, when it comes to such kind of talks that you've been mentioning, however, if we heard it from the opposition leaders side saying that there has been a significant infrastructure development and building that has also been happening on the Chinese side of the territory, as they claim to be their area, when it comes to divisional headquarters, even when it comes to garrisons and keeping of the weapons, this is something as the Chinese infrastructure that has also been building up in the last few years significantly, sir.
Ma'am, we must understand that the Chinese infrastructure has been, they've been doing that since, if I can, since early 50s, and after 1962 onwards, they've rapidly made large, infrastructures right up to the LAC. So that is nothing new is happening. Of course, they keep changing the tactics. Like they've started building the infrastructure for a village. Then they have infrastructure to have their runways and the roads running right up to the LAC. So these are part of things which has always been happening. But what is not happening was that India as a policy did not develop its infrastructure all along the line of actual control as a policy. That has changed. And when that changed, naturally the Chinese also would be worried that what is India up to. And then once infrastructure comes up, and actually the quantum of force or quantum of troops which is available in this area, that has also changed. So definitely when the force available has changed, the reaction also will change. And that is why you will see that every time there is a transgression, there is a resistance which is given by the Indian Army, and that is why this conflict happens. And likewise also we should remember that it is not only that the Chinese come inside what they perceive as their line of actual control, it is Indian troops also go into their side, or rather, what we claim till our line of actual control. So both the things happen.
And
the problem happens in these.
More to a hand-to-hand combat that has been witnessed, isn't it, Colonel Dinny? I mean, yes, the 2020 clash was the deadliest of all of them that has been witnessed after almost 4 decades now, but mostly has been hand-to-hand combat.
Yes, mostly it has been hand-to-hand and with a fairly lesser number of troops. The number, the quantity or the number of troops also have increased substantially after the Pangong So incident in 2020 and then leading up to Galwan and such like this. But definitely, initially, even in 2017, I remember in Pangong So when we were there, that the fist fight and the stone throwing and all those things used to happen. But that used to be at the local level and it used to get diffused there itself. But as their assertiveness increased and as our reaction capability increased, I think the level of violence also has increased, and that was what we saw in Galwan was the worst kind of thing which happened. But here in this particular incident, by all what reports which are coming in, I don't think that those kind of things have happened as was what happened in Galwan. But definitely, whenever the troops will come in close contact, we can expect such kind of reaction, and it's only that is why we say that it's better to keep them at a distance through any means, either through having a buffer zone or through an agreement or through confidence building measures, so that physical contact between troops don't take place, because physical contact of troops can lead to conflict and then it becomes unmanageable.
Absolutely, because we are talking about the 2 biggest armies in the world there, and between China and India. But Sabyasachi, we are going to be staying with the official statements that have been made so far. No speculations being done here on the channel, but the official statement that came in from the army side, if you can take us through those details, exactly what exactly happened, the date there, and we are told at least 2 of such skirmishes happened there till the time as we await for the Raksha Mantri's statement on the floor of the House.
Well, absolutely. See, there has been a lot of speculations going around, but if you stick to the army statement, they have said that the clashes broke out on 9th of December early in the morning, and injuries has been sustained by both the sides, and around 6 army personnel have sustained injuries, and these 6 army personnel are currently in Assam hospital. So this is what the army statement has come in, whereas what exactly transpired and how things unfolded over there, for that we have to wait for the statement which will be made by Rajnath Singh, because early in the morning, as we had seen, that all the army chiefs as well as the CDS and Ajit Doval as well, all of them had rushed for a high-level meeting at Rajnath Singh's residence, and after him briefing the Prime Minister, then only he will be telling the entire nation as well as the opposition parties exactly what happened. Meanwhile, the allegations and counter-allegations have been flowing in by the opposition parties, whereas several claims have been made so far, but we have to wait for the official confirmation by the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh himself.
Colonel Dinny, how do we understand it? As a different perceptions regarding there has been a no demarcated line or the border between the 2 countries, or this is border transgression on part of Chinese PLA that is often being witnessed and said about by the opposition parties here in India, sir?
I think it's about the different perceptions. The area where there is dispute, that is where all these clashes are taking place. It is not across the entire stretch of line of actual control where the clashes are taking place. Only in those areas there are different perceptions of the line of actual control. So that's what we saw in Pangong So, and that's what we're seeing it here. So and what happens is when the patrolling sides come, both sides, if there is an agreement, I mean, if there is and when things were much better, when the relations are much more in a more friendly manner, then it's a give and take, that you allow us to go to your our perceived line, and then we used to allow them to come to their perceived. So that kind of agreement was there. But when one party decides that we will change the status quo, or this is not the way it will be done anymore, that is the time when these clashes happen. And we are increasingly seeing that assertiveness by the Chinese in these areas of differing perceptions to enforce their claim, and that is being resisted in the most professional manner by the Indian Army at that particular site itself. So I think that is being handled by the ground troops. the ground commanders in a most mature manner, and that's how although these altercations will take, naturally there are two armies, there are two professional armies. I don't see the Chinese army as less professional. There are two professional armies, and when they both come together in close proximity with differing perceptions, definitely the temperatures are bound to rise, and these kind of clashes will happen. So the aim should be to keep the troops separated as much as possible.
But language also said to be a major barrier in this, to have a basic understanding of where to draw the line, where the line clearly is not drawn exactly, if we talk about that, sir. But Colonel Dinny, if we talk about the occasional flare-ups that seems to happen there, sir, are you looking at a set pattern or something which is very different in this time of the border skirmish that has been reported between the Indian and the Chinese troop there, sir? Because this is a heightened activity and a build-up. Over 300 to 350 soldiers, Chinese soldiers, what is being said, were there in the vicinity, sir. Is this something that has been regularly witnessed, or something that India off long has been keeping an eye out, and that is why we're looking at the Indian Army preparedness into this?
See, one thing is very clear, ma'am, that as a strategy, China would like to keep the line of actual control live. And by that, what I mean is that Chinese, they would like to keep the Indian troops or the Indian army focused along the line of actual control, or to put it in a more along the Himalayan borders. So that they want to do, and especially whenever there is a situation, it is for them to calibrate those events or those kind of incidents. They can do it. Definitely, they can orchestrate those kind of incidents along the line of actual control, because as I mentioned, the LAC has not been demarcated, or there is no agreement by both sides. So definitely, number one point is that the Chinese find it as an instrument of to keep us engaged, to keep us off balance, to as a giving us a message. All these things, as and when they require, they can do it. For example, even this particular incident, it could have been well avoided. It could well be that it has happened at a tactical level, as the Raksha Mantri might bring out the statement. It well could be that. But the broader guideline given to the PLA is that to keep the Indian Army engaged here, so that our focus does not go to anywhere else, including the Indo-Pacific, and India is talking of much bigger issues today. So that kind of thing also is part of the plan. Therefore, the number of troops, like for example 300 to 350 and all, is not a regular feature. The normal strength of a patrol is about 10 or 15 or 20. But whenever the issues flare up, that is the time when the number of troops increase, and 300, 400 is definitely a concern from both sides. And I understand that even from the Indian side, we had adequate troops. That is why about 3 battalions were there. So we also had adequate troops there to take on them in their own game. So that kind of thing is there. But definitely, right, yes, your point, I concede to the point that 300, 400 troops coming for such thing is not a normal thing. It is definitely something which is a cause of worry, and the frequency with which it is happening is definitely a cause of worry.